Dear Christian, do you feel like you're in labor? You know, how a woman gets birth pains before she gives birth? The contractions begin, they get more and more painful, and they get closer and closer together. I think that we as Christians are seeing those birth pains come upon the world, but also come upon us. You know, when you look at the Bible, both Jesus and the Apostle Paul talk about birth pains. In Matthew chapter 24, Jesus speaks about political birth pains, spiritual birth pains, geographical birth pains. He says that toward the end times, there are going to be wars and rumors of wars. There are going to be false prophets. There is going to be false teaching. There are going to be increased natural disasters. Jesus talks all about that. The Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 8 says that the whole creation has been groaning as in birth pains right up until the present time. And when we read those things in context, we realize that the turmoil that the world is in right now, in so many ways, is only going to get worse and worse. The pains are going to get deeper, and they're going to get closer and closer together. But what I never really realized until recently was that Jesus actually talks about we believers having birth pains as we long to see his face. In John chapter 16, he was talking to his disciples before he was about to go to the cross, resurrect, and ascend to heaven. And as he was preparing his disciples for this crazy time that they were going to go through, he said to them in John 16, verse 16, "In a little while you'll see me no more, and then after a little while you will see me." And the disciples, they just kept talking about it and asking each other, what does he mean, in a little while you won't see me anymore, and then after a little while you will see me? And of course, Jesus knew that they were confused by this. And he asked them, why are you asking each other about my comment, in a little while you won't see me and then you will? And I realized that today, as his disciples, we await his return, and we're doing the same kind of thing. Jesus, you said you'd come back soon. I mean, what does soon mean? We've been waiting. We want to understand. And that's kind of where the disciples were in the first century. But here's how Jesus comforts them. Not with an exact answer to their question, but he says this: "Very truly I tell you, you're going to weep and mourn while the world rejoices. When they crucify me and when I go away, the world is going to rejoice. But your grief is going to turn into joy." Same thing for us today. The world is rejoicing in this lack of truth that we see today, in good being called evil and evil being called good. The world wants to be free of the restrictions of the Word of God and the Bible and Jesus. However, pretty soon our grief is going to turn to joy, and their joy is going to turn to greater grief when the Lord returns and they find out what happens to them eternally. But here's what I want you to really think about. Then Jesus said in John 16:21, "A woman giving birth to a child has pain because her time has come. But when her baby is born, she forgets the anguish because of her joy that a child is born into the world. So it is with you. Now is your time of grief, but I'll see you again, and you will rejoice, and no one will take away your joy." I agree, my friend, that for Christians, it's rough right now. The world is falling apart. Persecution of Christians is getting greater and greater, and it's harder and harder in this world. But Jesus likened it to birth pains once again. When a woman is in labor, all she can seem to think about is the pain. But she goes on because she knows there's a baby to be born. And once that baby is born, she seems to forget about all the pain. Not that it didn't happen, she really did go through it. But the joy of the child, the joy of the new birth is so much greater than all the pain she endured. That immediately goes to the back of her mind, and the joy is right in front of her. Jesus told us that when we're wondering when he's coming back to make this world right again, we need to think about a woman in labor. Because right now it feels like all we're going through is the pain and the misery. But when he returns to birth a brand new world for us, it's not that we haven't gone through all this pain, but it will be nothing compared to the joy that we will experience when Jesus brings his new world to be. So, Christian, if you are feeling what seem to be contractions, labor pains of the end times, hold on. Pretty soon, Jesus is going to return. A new world is going to be birthed. And this pain, it'll be long gone.